The spaceship descended through thick clouds of smoke and ash, its metallic hull glowing faintly under the dim light of an alien sun. Inside, a group of humans sat silently, their wrists bound by glowing cuffs that pulsed with a cold blue energy. They had been captured during Earth's failed attempt to colonize a distant planet. Now, they were being taken to Zithris, a world ruled by the Vorathians, a species known for their cruel experiments on weaker beings. Among the prisoners was Daehyun, a tall man with dark hair and a quiet demeanor. His hands were calloused from years of working as a mechanic, but his eyes betrayed a deep sadness. Beside him sat Hygiene, a young woman whose fiery temper matched her sharp gaze. She clenched her fists tightly, trying to ignore the hum of the neural inhibitor embedded in her spine. It felt like needles pricking her skin whenever she thought about resisting. As the ship landed, the humans were herded out into a vast compound surrounded by towering crystalline walls. The air smelled strange, like burnt metal, and the ground beneath their feet shimmered unnaturally. Guards wearing sleek black armor marched them toward large cages made of translucent material that seemed alive, pulsating faintly with every step they took. Inside the cage, Hygiene leaned against the wall, her mind racing. She couldn't stop thinking about how unfair this all was. Humans weren't meant to be locked up like animals. Her thoughts were interrupted when she heard someone nearby muttering angrily. Turning her head, she saw Unsuk, a wiry man with glasses perched precariously on his nose. He was talking to Su'a, a petite woman with short hair and kind eyes. "They can't keep us here forever," Unsuk whispered. "We'll find a way out." Su'a nodded, though her expression showed doubt. "But how? Look at these walls. They're not even solid." Hygiene frowned. She didn't want to listen to hopeless conversations. Instead, she focused on the guards outside the cage. One of them caught her staring and smirked before walking away. That smirk infuriated her. Without realizing it, her hands began to feel warm. Tiny sparks flickered between her fingers, startling her. "What was that?" Daehyun asked, noticing the brief flash of light. I don't know," Hygiene stammered. She looked down at her hands, confused. "It just happened." Daehyun studied her carefully. There was something unusual about her, something he couldn't quite explain. Before he could ask more questions, a loud clang echoed through the compound. A Vorathian guard entered the cage holding a device that emitted a high-pitched whine. Everyone covered their ears instinctively, except for Hygiene. Her body tense as if preparing to fight back. "Stay calm," Daehyun murmured. "Don't give them a reason to hurt you." But Hygiene couldn't stay calm. The noise irritated her beyond reason. Suddenly, a burst of heat shot from her palms, causing the device to shatter. The guard staggered backward, shocked. Other guards rushed in, dragging Hygiene away while the rest of the prisoners watched in stunned silence. Later that night, Daehyun lay awake, replaying the incident in his mind. He knew there was something special about Hygiene, something dangerous yet powerful. If only they could figure out what it meant, maybe they'd stand a chance against their captors. Hygiene woke up in a small, sterile room. Her head throbbed painfully, and her arms were strapped to a metal table. Above her loomed a Vorathian scientist, its elongated face twisted into a look of fascination. The creature moved closer, holding a needle filled with glowing liquid. "You're different," it said in broken English. "Your kind should not possess such abilities." Hygiene struggled against the restraints, but they held firm. "What do you want from me?" she demanded. "To understand," the scientist replied cryptically. "To learn why the inhibitors fail." Before Hygiene could respond, the door burst open. Daehyun and Unsuk charged in, wielding makeshift weapons crafted from scraps found in the cage. Together, they freed Hygiene and fled back to the others. Over the next few days, Hygiene noticed changes within herself. Whenever she grew angry or frustrated, her hands would grow warm, sometimes emitting small flames. At first, she tried to suppress it, afraid of drawing attention. But one evening, while practicing alone in a corner of the cage, she accidentally set fire to a pile of debris. The flames danced wildly before fading away. Daehyun approached cautiously. "You need to control it," he said gently. That power, it's our best chance at escaping. Hygiene hesitated. I don't know if I can. We'll help you, Su'a chimed in, joining them. Together, we'll figure out. With encouragement from her friends, Hygiene began experimenting with her newfound ability. Slowly, she learned to summon flames at will, though controlling them proved difficult. Meanwhile, Suk worked tirelessly to disable the neural inhibitors, using tools smuggled from the guards' quarters. Their preparations culminated in a daring plan to break free. On the chosen night, Hygiene used her flames to melt the cage's translucent walls, while Suk disabled the surveillance system. For a moment, everything went according to plan. Then disaster struck. An alarm blared, alerting the guards. Chaos erupted as the humans scattered. Some managed to escape, but many were recaptured. Hygiene, Daehyun, Suk, and Su'a barely escaped with their lives, retreating into the shadows of the compound. Despite the setback, Hygiene refused to give up. As they regrouped in hiding, she vowed to master her powers no matter what. And deep down, she believed that one day they would rise again. The group huddled in the shadows, their breathing heavy and uneven. Hygiene clenched her fists tightly, trying to calm the burning sensation in her palms. She could still feel the heat coursing through her veins, a reminder of what she had done back in the cage, how she had set fire to the guards' weapons and melted the restraints that bound them. But now, exhaustion weighed heavily on her shoulders. Her body felt like it was made of lead, and every movement required effort. Daehyun leaned against the cold metal wall, his eyes scanning the dimly lit corridor. He glanced at Hygiene, then at Suk and Su'a, who were whispering quietly nearby. They had barely escaped capture during their failed breakout attempt, but the cost had been high. Several of their fellow prisoners hadn't been so lucky. The memory of their screams echoed in Daehyun's mind, haunting him. "We can't stay here," Suk said finally, breaking the silence. "They'll find us soon." Su'a nodded, though fear flickered in her eyes. "Where do we go? We're trapped inside this place." Hygiene looked up sharply. "We fight. That's what we do." Her voice was firm, though her hands trembled slightly. "If they want to cage us, fine, but they'll regret it." Daehyun placed a hand on her shoulder. "We need a plan first. You can't just burn everything down." For once, Hygiene didn't argue. She knew he was right. As much as she wanted to lash out, they couldn't afford reckless mistakes. Not when so many lives depended on them. Still, the thought of sitting idle made her chest tighten with anger. Before anyone could suggest anything, a low hum filled the air. It grew louder, vibrating through the walls and floor. The group froze, exchanging nervous glances. Then, without warning, a section of the ceiling slid open, revealing a bright light. 2 Vorathian guards descended, their sleek armor gleaming ominously. "Come with us," one of them ordered, pointing directly at Hygiene. His tone left no room for argument. Daehyun stepped forward instinctively, positioning himself between Hygiene and the guards. "You're not taking her anywhere." The guard raised a weapon, its tip crackling with energy. "Do not interfere." Hygiene shook her head, stepping past Daehyun. "It's okay," she said softly. "I'll go." "No." Daehyun protested, but Hygiene gave him a reassuring look. "I'll be fine," she insisted. "Trust me." Reluctantly, Daehyun backed away, his jaw clenched tightly. The guards grabbed Hygiene by the arms and dragged her toward the opening in the ceiling. She didn't resist, though her heart pounded wildly in her chest. Whatever awaited her, she knew it wouldn't be pleasant. When Hygiene woke up, she found herself strapped to another table, similar to the one from before. This time, however, the room was larger and filled with strange machines. A tall figure stood nearby, observing her with piercing yellow eyes. It wasn't just any Vorathian. It was Caelorix, the overseer of the facility. "You are special," Caelorix began, his voice smooth yet chilling. "Your kind, humans, were once part of something greater." Hygiene frowned, confused. "What are you talking about?" Caelorix moved closer, his elongated fingers tracing patterns in the air. "Long ago, your ancestors belonged to the Ember Accord, a coalition of beings capable of wielding elemental powers. Fire, water, earth, air, all elements were theirs to command. Hygiene stared at him, disbelief written across her face. That's impossible. Is it? Calyrex countered, then explained this. He gestured her hands, which were glowing faintly despite being restrained. You carried dormant genetic markers tied to the Accord. They had begun awakening within you. A wave of emotions crashed over Hygiene, shock, confusion, and anger. She struggled against the restraints, her frustration igniting tiny flames around her wrists. Why does it matter? Why tell me this? Because we feared your potential, Calyrex admitted. Centuries ago, humanity posed a threat to our dominance. We betrayed the Accord and nearly wiped you out. Now, remnants of your power remain, hidden until moments of extreme stress. Hygiene's mind raced. Everything she had experienced, the sparks, the flames, the uncontrollable bursts of energy, it all made sense now. But instead of feeling empowered, she felt enraged. How dare these creatures treat her people like experiments, like tools to be studied and discarded? Her anger surged, feeding the flames growing around her hands. The restraints melted away, freeing her. With a roar, she unleashed a torrent of fire, engulfing the machines and sending Calyrex stumbling backward. You think you can control me? Hygiene shouted, her voice echoing through the room. You're wrong. Calyrex watched her, unfazed by the destruction. You cannot escape who you are, he said calmly. Embrace it or destroy yourself trying. With that, he turned and left, leaving Hygiene alone amidst the wreckage. Her chest heaved as she tried to steady her breathing. Though victorious in this moment, she knew the battle was far from over. Back in a hiding spot, Daehyun paced anxiously. Every second felt like an eternity. When Hygiene finally returned, battered but alive, relief washed over him. She collapsed into his arms, trembling but determined. They know, she whispered. About us. About the Accord. Daehyun listened intently as she recounted everything Calyrex had told her. By the time she finished, Suk and Suah were wide-eyed with shock. So, we're descendants of powerful beings? Suk asked, struggling to process the information. It seems so, Hygiene replied grimly. And if that's true, then maybe we're stronger than they realize. Suah nodded slowly. If we can awaken those powers in others, we might stand a chance. The idea sparked hope in everyone. For the first time since their capture, they saw a glimmer of possibility. Together, they vowed to uncover the truth about their heritage and use it to reclaim their freedom. As they prepared for the next phase of their rebellion, Hygiene felt a newfound resolve burning within her. No matter what challenges lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain. The Vorathians had underestimated humanity, and they would pay dearly for it. The compound buzzed with an eerie calm, the kind that came before a storm. Inside their hiding spot, Hygiene sat cross-legged on the cold floor, her hands glowing faintly as she practiced controlling her flames. Daehyun watched her from a distance, his arms crossed and his brow furrowed in thought. Suk tinkered with a small device he had scavenged earlier, while Suah tended to a minor cut on her arm, wincing slightly. We need to move soon, Daehyun said finally, breaking the silence. Every second we wait gives them more time to prepare. Hygiene nodded without looking up. I'm almost ready. Just a little longer. Suk glanced at her, then at Daehyun. Are you sure about this plan? It's risky, not just for us, but for everyone else too. It's the only chance we've got, Daehyun replied firmly. If we don't act now, they'll crush us completely. Suah sighed softly. Let's hope the others are ready. We can't do this alone. They all knew what was at stake. Over the past few days, Hygiene and Daehyun had secretly reached out to other prisoners, sharing what they had learned about the Ember Accord and humanity's hidden powers. Many were skeptical at first, but after witnessing Hygiene's abilities firsthand, they began to believe. Now, scattered groups of humans across the compound were preparing to rise up together. As night fell, the group finalized their plans. Suk explained how he would disable the main power grid, plunging the facility into darkness, and giving them a brief window to strike. Meanwhile, Hygiene would lead the charge, using her fire to create chaos and distract the guards. Daehyun and Suah would focus on freeing as many prisoners as possible, arming them with whatever weapons they could find. When the moment arrived, tension hung thick in the air. Hyejin took a deep breath, feeling the warmth build within her palms. She exchanged a quick glance with Daehyun, who gave her a reassuring nod. Then, with a silent signal, they sprang into action. Eun-suk slipped away first, disappearing into shadows. Moments later, the lights flickered and died, plunging the compound into pitch blackness. Shouts of confusion erupted from the guards as alarms blared throughout the facility. In the chaos, Hyejin stepped forward, raising her hands high. Flames erupted from her fingertips, illuminating the area around her like a beacon. "What is this?" one of the Vorathian guards shouted, his voice laced with panic. Before anyone could react, Hyejin unleashed a wave of fire, engulfing nearby equipment and forcing the guards to retreat. Other prisoners emerged from their hiding spots, armed with makeshift weapons and fueled by desperation. Together, they surged forward, overwhelming the stunned guards. Daehyun moved quickly, unlocking cages and helping prisoners escape. Suah stayed close by, tending to those injured in the fighting. Despite the initial success, resistance was fierce. Reinforcements poured in, their weapons crackling with energy. The humans fought back valiantly, but it was clear they were outnumbered. In the midst of the battle, Caelorix appeared, his towering figure cutting through the crowd. His eyes locked on a Hyejin, who stood amidst a swirling inferno of flames. Without hesitation, he raised a sleek metallic staff, aiming it directly at her. "You cannot win," Caelorix declared, his voice cold and commanding. "Your rebellion is futile." Hyejin gritted her teeth, her anger boiling over. She summoned every ounce of strength she had, channeling it into her flames. With a deafening roar, she launched herself at Caelorix, the heat radiating off her body, scorching the ground beneath her feet. The two clashed violently, Caelorix deflecting her attacks with his staff while launching bursts of energy in return. Each strike sent shockwaves rippling through the air, shattering nearby walls and sending debris flying. Daehyun and the others could only watch in awe as the battle unfolded. Despite his advanced technology, Caelorix struggled to contain Hyejin's raw power. Her flames grew brighter and hotter with each passing second, fueled by her determination to protect her friends and reclaim their freedom. Finally, with one last surge of energy, she unleashed a massive fireball that knocked Caelorix off his feet. For a moment, everything went silent. The flames died down, revealing Hyejin standing tall, her chest heaving with exertion. Caelorix lay motionless on the ground, his armor scorched and cracked. But instead of finishing him, Hyejin lowered her hands. "This isn't about revenge," she said quietly, her voice steady despite her fatigue. "It's about justice." Caelorix stared up at her, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he nodded. "You have proven yourself worthy," he murmured. "Perhaps there is still hope for your kind." With that, he vanished into the shadows, leaving Hyejin and the others to regroup. Though battered and bruised, they had achieved the impossible. They had struck a decisive blow against their captors. As the survivors gathered, cheers erupted throughout the compound. For the first time in years, they felt a glimmer of hope. But Hyejin knew the fight was far from over. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. Later that night, as the group rested in a temporary sanctuary, Hyejin gazed up at the stars visible through a broken section of the ceiling. Daehyun joined her, sitting quietly beside her. "You did good today," he said, his tone soft but proud. "More than good, you inspired everyone." Hyejin smiled faintly, though her eyes remained distant. "It's not over yet. There's still so much to do." "I know," Daehyun replied. "But for now, let's take a moment to breathe, to remember why we're doing this." Hyejin nodded, leaning slightly against him. Around them, the sounds of laughter and quiet conversation filled the air. Those scars remained, both physical and emotional. Their spirits burned brighter than ever. Somewhere deep inside, Hyejin felt a spark ignite. It wasn't just anger or defiance anymore. It was hope. And as long as that flame burned, they would never give up, The survivors trudged through dense underbrush, their weary bodies battered but unbroken. After escaping the Vorathian compound, they had journeyed far into the wilderness of Zitharus, seeking refuge in a hidden valley surrounded by jagged cliffs and shimmering waterfalls. The air here felt different, cleaner, freer, as if nature itself welcomed them. Hygiene led the way, her steps steady despite the exhaustion weighing on her shoulders. Her hands still glowed faintly with residual heat, a reminder of the power that now coursed through her veins. Behind her, Daehyun walked alongside Suk and Suah, their faces etched with determination. Dozens of other freed prisoners followed, each carrying supplies scavenged during their escape. As they settled into their new sanctuary, Hygiene stood atop a rocky ledge overlooking the group. Below, makeshift shelters were being constructed from fallen branches and crystalline debris. Fires crackled softly, casting warm light across weary faces. For the first time in what felt like forever, there was a sense of peace, a fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild. But Hygiene knew better than to let her guard down. She turned to Daehyun, who approached with a questioning look. "What's next?" he asked simply. "We train," Hygiene replied without hesitation. "We find others like me, others who carry the Ember Core within them." Daehyun nodded slowly. "And then we fight back, not just for ourselves, but for everyone they've oppressed." Over the following weeks, life in the sanctuary began to take shape. Hygiene worked tirelessly to help others unlock their latent abilities, guiding them through exercises designed to awaken their powers. Some struggled, frustrated by their lack of progress, while others discovered gifts they never imagined they possessed. One young man named Jin Woo found he could manipulate Earth, shaping it into weapons or barriers with mere thought. Another woman, Miran, learned to summon gusts of wind strong enough to knock over trees. Suk used his engineering skills to fortify the sanctuary, creating traps and defenses to protect against potential attacks. Meanwhile, Suah cared for the injured and sick, her gentle presence offering comfort to those still reeling from their ordeal. Despite these efforts, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Supplies were running low, and not everyone believed in Hygiene's vision. Some argued that staying hidden was safer, while others wanted to launch an immediate assault on the Vorathians. Hygiene listened patiently to their concerns, reminding them why they had fought so hard to escape. "We're not just fighting for freedom," she told them one evening, standing before a flickering fire. "We're fighting for something bigger, for justice, for truth. If we give up now, everything we've sacrificed will mean nothing." Her words resonated deeply, reigniting the spark of hope that had brought them this far. Slowly but surely, unity began to replace fear. One fateful morning, a scout returned with news that changed everything. A faction of rogue Vorathians had been spotted nearby, seeking allies to overthrow Caelorix and his oppressive regime. At first, many were skeptical, even hostile, toward the idea of working with their former captors. But Hygiene saw an opportunity. "They were betrayed too," she explained during a meeting with the group. "Just like us. If we join forces, we can weaken the Vorathians from within." After much debate, the decision was made to meet with the rogues. Led by a fierce warrior named Vera, they arrived at the sanctuary cautiously, their weapons lower but ready. Vera stepped forward, her sharp eyes scanning the humans before addressing Hygiene directly. "You've shown us that humanity is more than we believed," Vera said, her voice firm yet respectful. "If you're willing to trust us, we'll stand by your side." Hygiene extended her hand, flames dancing harmlessly around her fingers. "Then let's finish what we started. Together." The coalition devised a plan to infiltrate the Vorathian stronghold, a massive fortress nestled deep within the planet's core. Using Hygiene's fire and the combined powers of the awakened humans, they would breach its defenses while the rogues created chaos from within. The night of the attack arrived quickly. As the group approached the fortress, Hygiene felt a familiar surge of heat in her chest. Beside her, Daehyun placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You ready?" he asked. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied with a small smile. With a deafening roar, Hygiene unleashed a wall of fire, melting to the fortress's outer walls. The battle that followed was chaotic and brutal, but the humans fought with unmatched ferocity. Jinwoo raised boulders to shield his comrades, while Miran summoned winds to scatter enemy reinforcements. Even those without powers contributed, wielding makeshift weapons with courage and resolve. Inside the fortress, Vera and her rogues clashed with loyalist guards, their movements swift and precise. Together, they pushed deeper into the heart of the stronghold, where Caelorix awaited. When Hygiene finally confronted him again, the room was eerily silent. Caelorix stood tall, his expression unreadable. "You've come further than I expected," he admitted. "But this ends now." Without hesitation, Hygiene charged forward, her flames blazing brighter than ever. The duel that ensued was intense, each strike sending shockwaves through the chamber. But this time, Hygiene wasn't alone. Daehyun and the others joined the fray, overwhelming Caelorix until he fell to his knees, defeated. Breathing heavily, Hygiene stepped closer, her flames dying down to a faint glow. "It's over," she said firmly. "Your reign of fear is done." Caelorix bowed his head in defeat, his voice barely above a whisper. Perhaps you truly are the future." In the aftermath of the battle, the coalition dismantled the Vorathian regime, freeing countless prisoners from captivity. News of their victory spread across Zithris and beyond, inspiring others to rise against oppression. Humans, once seen as weak and insignificant, were now recognized as a force to be reckoned with. Back at the sanctuary, Hygiene stood atop the same rocky ledge where she had first envisioned their rebellion. Flames danced gently in her palms as she gazed out at the horizon. Behind her, Daehyun joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We did it," he said softly. Hygiene nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Yeah, we did." But even as she basked in the triumph, she knew the journey was far from over. There were still worlds to liberate, truths to uncover, and battles to fight. Yet, for the first time, she felt no fear, only determination. As the sun rose over the valley, casting golden light across the land, Hygiene whispered to herself, "The bars couldn't hold fire, and neither could they hold hope.